And have a little seat. Wow, that woke you up, didn't it? Didn't need any alarm clock here today, you just needed me. Well, welcome to Unity of Syracuse this morning, my friends, on this rather chilly but such a sunny day. You know, when you drive around and you see those little sparkles that are coming off the snow, it doesn't make it feel so bad, does it? And we're here to spread some love today. We're here to give you the opportunity to be love, feel love, give love, and receive love. So if you'd stand for a second and just sing this song that means so much to us. Love is my decision. It's up to me to give of my heart. Love is my decision. No one else can tell me to start. And once I decide to change my mind, what's going to happen? God will show me how. Love is my decision. My decision right here and now. Love is my decision. It's up to me to stand on that bridge. Love is my decision. Who do you need to forgive? No one else can make me forgive. Oh, just change your mind today. And once I decide to change my mind, what's going to happen? Love will show me how. Love is my decision. My decision right here and now. Love is my decision. It's up to me to dance down the road. Come on, lighten your load today. Love is my decision. Yes. No one else can lighten my load. And once I decide to change my mind, love will show me how. Love is my decision. My decision right here and now. My decision right here and now. Woohoo!
Good morning, and welcome to Unity of Syracuse. We are so glad that you are all here this morning, and all of you out in Love Streaming Land, we're glad you're here too. I'm Patsy Scala, and I'm going to be your platform assistant today. So, I want to open with a reading of today's daily word. The word is forgive. As I forgive, I know the fullness of divine love. God's love flows freely to all who will receive it. Only as I forgive, however, can I fully experience God's love. Unity co-founder Myrtle Fillmore wrote, "Forgiveness is the art of putting something else in place of the thing forgiven. That something else is, quote, the positive realization of the truth of being, unquote. When I discover a thought arising about myself or a person or an incident I've resented, I need not condone what was done or left undone. I need only release the thought and focus on the eternal truth that every person is the image and likeness of God. Regardless of what they may have done or failed to do, even if my new feelings are slow to respond, my act of forgiveness is complete. And from Matthew chapter 6, verse 12, and forgive us our debts, as we also have forgiven our debtors. And I started thinking about forgiving and started thinking that I don't have a lot of trouble in forgiving other people. But I have trouble in forgiving myself. And I think we are the ones that we have the greatest deal of trouble forgiving. For example, last week I told about how my cat went into hiding and my daughter and her fiance came and they discovered my cat. Well, that was a beautiful story, but that's not all the story. I let the cat be out in my whole house instead of in a nice little contained place. And being afraid, she hid. So guess who I didn't forgive? It was my fault. If anything had happened to her, I was wrong. I was blah, 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 blah. Boy, did I do forgiveness work last week. And it was all about forgiving myself. And I took Myrtle Fillmore's advice unknowingly because I didn't really read the Daily Word until this morning. I put something else in place of my feelings of guilt. And what I put in place of the feelings of guilt was a sense of joy that my cat had been found. So we need to learn to forgive ourselves. Now, our children are already downstairs with the YFM, but I want to remind you, if you brought children, you're responsible for them as soon as YFM and the service would be over. So now it's time for our sacred greeting and our statement of being. So let's stand in place and do our sacred greeting. We greet each other with a handshake, a wave, a hug, or as some people do, with a namaste. So that's something that we talk about in the 10 o'clock discussion group. I'll get to that later. All right. Now, if you would join me with our statement of being, which is on the screen. God is all, both visible and invisible. One presence, one mind, one power is all. This one that is all is perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance. I am an individualized expression of God. I am ever one with this perfect life, perfect love, and perfect substance.
What the world needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing that there's just too little of. What the world needs now,
I know you know this,
is love, sweet love. No, not just for some, but for everyone.
What the world needs now. What the
world needs
What does
now
it need?
is love, sweet love.
Oh yeah.
It's the only thing
What is it?
that there's just too little of. What the world needs now His love, sweet love, no, not just for some,
but who?
but for everyone.
Reach out and touch
Somebody's
Come on, reach out today. Make this world a better place. Oh, if you can, reach out and touch somebody's hand. Yeah. Make this world a better place. Oh, if you can, come on and reach out and touch. Oh, reach out. Yes, somebody's hand. Make this world a better place. Oh, I know you can. Oh, reach out and touch somebody's hand. Make this world a better place. Oh, if you can. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing that there's just too little of. What the world needs now is love, sweet love. For who? No, not just for some, but for everyone.
We now have our announcements. There are some announcements in the back of your bulletin, but I would like to give you a few more. The 10 a.m. discussion group, we invite all of you to come. It is really interesting. It is really deep, really profound, and really interesting. So please join us in the green room for the 10 a.m. discussion group. Today there's a facilities team meeting at 12:30. And let me talk a little bit about the prayer chaplains. Most of you have prayed with prayer chaplains. Some of you are prayer chaplains. If there is anyone who is thinking that you might like to become a prayer chaplain, now you have to have been a member for a year to become a prayer chaplain. But we're going to be holding meetings after the service on Sunday, March 22nd and Sunday, March 29th, explaining to you what is it to become a prayer chaplain? What does it mean? What does it entail? So you can decide whether it's something that you want, that calls out to you. It is a calling. I need to say it is a calling, a divine calling. So anyway, March 22nd and March 29th at 12:30 in the green room. Lenten books, Fasting and Feasting 2020, they're available in the back of the church. They can help you through your Lenten celebrations and your Lenten work. And the easy giving cards for those of us who give on a monthly basis or a weekly basis, just having money deducted from our accounts. We can put something into the box when it comes around. Okay, reminding you one more time to avoid parking near the church because of falling ice, although I don't think we have that problem today because it's a beautiful sunny day. So at this point, I would like to warmly welcome today's guests. Do we have anyone who is visiting us for the first time today? Yes, we do. Welcome. We have a packet for you with a gift of a candle representing the light of spirit that shines within you. And attached to your welcome packet is a yellow slip. Please fill it out, take it downstairs to the bookstore, and you're going to get another gift. So we welcome you. And join us for fellowship. And now we have our 5 basic principles. those principles by which we live and move and have our being and get through life. Are there any two of you that can tell us how these principles have affected you in the past week, in a couple of minutes? Oh, please. Okay, all right. I'll start. And mine is, we create our life experiences through our thoughts and our actions. I've noticed that when I am in a good mood, everything turns out beautifully. When I'm in a mood of unforgiveness of myself, as I was going through because I let the cat out of the bag, as it were, quite literally, everything was turning out wrong. And I hear people saying Mercury went in retrograde on Monday and therefore everything's going to be all nonsense. It is going to be whatever we think it's going to be. And what I've found that's interesting about my experiences is the experiences may be exactly identical, but if my attitude toward what is a positive attitude, a cheerful attitude, everything works out. And if it isn't, things are not working out. So we do indeed create our lives through our thoughts and our actions. And that's the way principle number 5 comes in. We live daily with these principles. So come on, there's got to be somebody else who's, okay, Ed. Oh, Ed and Sheila, cool.
Yeah, when you started saying what you did, Patsy, I had already had the same idea that I noticed that we create our life experiences through our way of thinking. Well, I've been lately like achy or tired and like that, but we had a unity that we were putting on yesterday, and I went and did that, and I'm on my feet all day long for that, doing that. I mean, not all day long, maybe 3, 4, 5 hours. And there was no problem the whole time, because I was there to have a good time, to give people a good time. I had fun, and the whole time was just great. And then I got home and my bones are aching. I wanted to sit down. But wouldn't you think if I were tired and my bones ached before I started that it would happen throughout? No, because we create our moments. Every moment we live, we only have each moment to live and create for ourselves. So it works.
Thank you. And I want to say that, okay, we have Barb and we have Sheila, so we have a lot of people who have experienced the principles.
So this week, one of my good friends' husband had to have open heart surgery. He had a valve replaced. And so I said, well, I'm going to put it out to my prayer chaplains. And so I did. And the beautiful prayers started coming on my phone. And so I forwarded them to her, to my friend. And they could not believe how easily he went through the surgery and now is almost, he's already gotten cleared to fly and to travel. She said, the other night, he goes, I've got more energy than I've ever had in my life. So I think there is power in affirmative prayer. And I just want to say thank you to all the prayer chaplains. It really works. And so I just wanted to share that.
Thank you so much. There is indeed power in prayer.
Mine is also about the unity. We had our unity. Can you hear me? Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now? I am in charge of the unity. In my mind, that means I have to do everything myself. And that is very daunting to me. And I get myself all in a tizzy beforehand. And one of the really good things about the tea is that I have learned to delegate everything. So that I was not baking, I was not doing any of the things, but I do the setup and, all that kind of stuff. So we had our tea yesterday, and I just decided it was going to be a great success, and it was. And it's all about you create our life experience through our way of thinking, and it really makes a difference. And we had a wonderful time. We just had a wonderful time. So thank you all.
Thank you all so much.
There are 3 people I want to thank for the tea who were behind the scenes and didn't participate in the tea. And that one was Patty Oatman, who keeps our place nice and clean, and Don Morrow, who put up lights and stuff like that, and Rick Patrick, who not only bakes for us, but he helps us set up and everything. So those guys, without them, thank you so much.
All right.
Fuller, I forgot to thank her.
We obviously have a lot of good going on with the people in our church community. So now is the time for the blessing of the prayer requests. Will the prayer chaplain serving today please stand? I'm already standing and I'm serving after church, and Mina is. So one of us will be upstairs, one of us will be downstairs, and every Sunday from 10:45 to 10:55, prayer chaplains are available to pray with you before service and then after service again. So at this time, we bless all prayer intentions and requests. Would someone, Leland is bringing the prayer box forward. Unity was founded on prayer. At Silent Unity, prayer has been going on 24/7 for almost 130 years. If you haven't placed your written prayer intention in the box, please place it in there mentally, spiritually. And we hold these prayer intentions for 30 days. We don't look at them. We just know that a prayer said is a prayer that is answered in some way. And then at Silent Unity, for 30 more days, they're held again in confidence. So Leland will now say a prayer over our prayer requests.
Father, Mother, Spirit, here before us and in our hearts are our prayer intentions. And we know that it is in the asking that there is the receiving. For we hold in this space that divine love that is throughout all of us, bringing forth the best, guiding us, taking us to our next place. It is with love that these intentions are blessed and sent forward. And for this we simply say thank you, God, that it is truly so, and all is well. Amen.
Oh, there's something I didn't mention, so I'm going to go back up and tell you that there is something before we get started with your talk. The CNY Rise Center, which is across the street from us, we just got word of this. That's why it wasn't on the announcements. They are sponsoring this Friday evening from 6:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Dr. King's vision of neighbors building neighborhoods. The CNY Rise Center is a wonderful place, and every time I've gone over there, it has been uplifting and wonderful. And we have an incredible neighborhood here that we serve spiritually with the Zen Center, with CNY Rise, with Unity. So I urge you to take part in this celebration. It's from 6:30 to 7:30. Across the street, okay? That's all I'm going to say.
I thought you'd be seated. Okay. Hi. I'm Ray Stoffel. How's everybody doing? Thanks for being here this morning on this gorgeous day. So the title of my talk is Loved into Being, but I got to tell you that I stole it. I stole it from the movie about Mr. Rogers starring Tom Hanks. And if you haven't seen it, it's a really good movie. And it comes from this one scene in the movie where Mr. Rogers asks his companion to take 1 minute to just recall all the people in his life who have loved him into being. That sounds lovely, doesn't it? Sounds simple, doesn't it? Well, I've discovered that it's not as simple as I thought. So the scene gave me some pause. It was really beautiful. It touched me, but then it made me uncomfortable. Uncomfortable enough to know that I had to pay attention. And Eric Butterworth, one of our teachers here, he says that sometimes that is called divine discontent. Okay. And it means that maybe you need to grow. Lucky me. Maybe at the end of the talk, I'm hoping that you're going to understand why I had to choose this title. So I'm going to back up because I'd also like to do something this morning, and that's to honor the fact that this has been Black History Month. Okay? And so I'm going to use a quote from Toni Morrison from her book, Beloved. And then I want to tell you about a woman that did something 70 years ago that not only changed her life, but affected this very community. But I'll bet you that most of us don't know anything about her. And then I'm going to end my talk by talking about Lent and that divine discontent. First slide, please. This is Toni Morrison's quote from Beloved. Freeing yourself was one thing. Claiming ownership of that freed self was another. Just keep that in the back of your mind as I tell you about this woman. I didn't know about her till a couple weeks ago when I went to New York City, and I went to a Unity church there, and they did a little Black history thing. And they talked about her enough where I became curious, so I read about her. Her name was Johnnie Mae Coleman. Johnny because her dad wanted a boy. She was born 100 years ago. 100 years ago in 1920. In fact, last Tuesday was her 100th birthday. And she was born into a family that really had very varied spiritual connections. Let's put it that way. They didn't just have one train of thought. And what they did include in their teachings was new thought. So when she turned 32, so it's 1952, that's when I was born, okay, they told her she had an incurable illness. And so she didn't really know what to do with that, like most of us wouldn't know. But she said, as she writes about this, that that's when she began to notice all the Unity material in their living room. And one particular article jumped out at her because the article was titled, "You Don't Have to Die." So she went to her mother and she said, "Hey, where did all this stuff come from?" And her mom said, "Well, it came from Unity. I've been scattering it around the house, and I'd hope that you'd notice." But you know that old saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears? Well, Johnny was ready. Okay. So she found out about Unity, and she went there. Okay. Now, I didn't know this, but before we were Unity Village, we were Unity Farm. I never knew that. And we were a school. Okay. Now, I need to back up just a second, because Unity was founded on healing. Our co-founder, Myrtle Fillmore, she healed herself from tuberculosis, and that became like the cornerstone of early Unity teaching. And it's still right there in our principles, in that second principle that says, you know, within each one of us, our humanness, there is that spark of the divine. And therefore, we are all children of God. Okay? So she went to Unity, and she started to study there in the school, and they had dormitories. But Johnny was a black woman, and it's 1952. So she had to drive back and forth, and she lived an hour and a half away. So you can imagine the hardship on her because she wasn't feeling well. But she really didn't have a choice here, okay? Because again, she's a black woman, it's 1952. And she knew enough that she had to stay because she had to learn Myrtle's lesson. And Myrtle's lesson was, as a child of God, we do not inherit illness, that there is a part of us that is divine that would help her heal. So she drove. And she continued to drive until the middle of her 3rd year, when in a downpour, she put her car in a culvert, upside down. So when they got her out of the culvert, she was wet and angry and afraid. But she didn't go home. She went to Unity, and she said to her peers, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. I've got to quit. And the peers said, nope, we're not going to let you do that. And they drafted a petition that demanded that Johnny be allowed to live on campus. That's how much they admired her. That's how much they knew that she was exactly where she belonged. And you might recall a couple weeks ago that Patsy talked to us about belonging. And last week, Mark talked to us about infinite possibility. Okay. What she was asking for must have seemed impossible. So you can imagine the courage and the strength that it took for her to actually turn in that petition. Because not everybody signed it, because it's 1955. It's kind of rural Missouri. But enough people signed it that the administration said, okay, we are going to let you live in Cabin J, but first we have to take all the farm equipment out, because that's where she was going to be allowed to live. Not in the dormitory, but down at the end of the road. Not with the safety of the other women, but by herself. In a place that had no heat. What choice did she have? So her mother brought all of their blankets and she moved into Unity Farm with her, and she stayed there for the semester. And the next semester, a slightly improved Cabin J became the dormitory for women of color. Now that's not ideal, I know, okay? But it was a step in the right direction. And she writes about her disappointment and how they handled that. But by then she understood it was no longer about her. It was about moving forward. It was about claiming a greater good. And it's not a miracle story. Unity Farm doesn't suddenly get redeemed and she is not spontaneously recovering. What this is a story that is freeing her, a woman's freeing herself by speaking truth to power. By being strong enough to say to Unity, you need to live into your own teachings. You need to see the truth of who I am, that divine spark, that child of God, by looking past the color of my skin. And I got to tell you, once she was freed, she claimed her life. She claimed quite a career. She had multiple congregations, one over 20,000 people. She became a globally recognized author. Okay? And she was the first black woman to serve as president of Worldwide Unity. I had never heard of her. What about her illness? Well, she writes this. She can't tell us when she actually was cured. She just kept living and becoming who she was becoming. And she kept becoming until 2014. She lived to be 94 years old. Now we can see this story in two ways. We can see that she was loved into being by the petition. But this morning I'm going to ask you to look at it this way. Johnny Coleman helped love this community and absolutely every other Unity community live into the truth of who we say we are. Because she had to loosen that grip of discrimination and segregation in an organization that teaches only love. We teach only love. And yet, back then we could not see the error in our policies, the error in our thinking. So she freed herself. And in doing so, she created infinite possibilities for us. And now it's time for us to claim that inheritance. How do we do that? Free ourselves and claim our inheritance? Well, we do what Johnny did. What she did is she went to that institution and asked them to look at how they were showing up in the world and then to change the erred thinking. As individuals, we can do that too. We can take an honest look at how we are showing up at the world, then we can free ourselves from whatever it is that's holding us back from becoming who we're meant to be. And then we can love ourselves into being by becoming that something new. We can claim a Christ-centered self. Kind of like what you were talking about this morning about self-forgiveness. If you're ready, our teacher's about to appear, because Wednesday is Ash Wednesday, which leads us into Lent. And Lent is a perfect time for us to take a look at how we're showing up in the world as individuals and maybe as an institution. Now, if you haven't taken this little book home, I'm going to suggest that you do, because it's a really good tool. It's going to help us live into that quote by Toni Morrison. Because one day they say, here's something that you might want to let go of. And the very next day, they give you a new idea, something that you can claim instead. It's also a really nice way to experience how we in Unity do Lent. Now, in the introduction of the book, slide please, Eric Butterworth says this about Lent. It is, or can be, a marvelous experience in self-improvement. That's kind of an oxymoron, I know, a marvelous experience in self-improvement. But I want you to focus on three words, or can be. Because it all depends on what we do with it, your awareness of it, your dedication to it. Because the Unity practice of Lent is not the Lent that you might remember. Because the Lent that I remember is about suffering and sacrifice. In my house as a child, that means that all 7 kids have to give up sweets. And every year my parents would try to quit drinking. No sweets, no alcohol, it guaranteed we suffered. And we could not wait for Easter morning so we could bite the heads off the chocolate buddies and gorge on jelly beans. Because 6 weeks had gone by, but nothing had changed. So this morning I'm going to tell you that this is what I think. It's not going to be enough for you to just read the book in your living room, because we don't live in our living rooms. If we're going to honestly ask ourselves how we're showing up in the world, we've got to look at our relationships. And that can be uncomfortable. That can lead to divine discontent. I'm also going to remind us about that 5th principle. It says you got to do something. There's got to be a demonstration. Look at it this way. If Johnny didn't do anything with her petition, it was useless. And if we don't do anything with the things we find out about ourselves in the next 6 weeks, it's useless. So I'm asking you to consider this. If you're willing to do this work during this time of Lent, and you discover that there's absolutely anything that you need to do to improve a relationship, find a way to do it. Otherwise, 6 weeks go by, and nothing's going to change. So I'll offer you a little motivation in my Bible verse. You cannot throw things. Bible verse, please. Sin, this is from Butterworth in, there we go. When you are standing praying, if you hold anything against anyone, forgive them, so that your Father in heaven may forgive you your sins. And I know that I've been using S words. We're not big on sin here, like we're not big on suffering or sacrifice. But that doesn't mean that every once in a while we don't have to take a look. Next slide, please. In the book, Discover the Power Within You, which is by Butterworth, he says that sin is when a man, and I've added woman, a spiritual and creative expression of divine mind, is unaware of her divinity and acts at the level of his humanity. Thus, sin is the major tragedy of human experience. Holy moly. Okay? So here's my rather crude translation. For me, sin is acting like a jerk. And when you become aware that you are acting like a jerk, you continue to act like a jerk. Got it? If you discover over the next 6 weeks that you are showing up at the level of your humanity, you are therefore negating the divinity within you. You are negating seeing the divinity in the other. You are contributing to the tragedy. Because once you become aware of that, if you do not seek some kind of healing, you're turning your back on the possibility of freeing yourself and freeing that other. And that, my friends, is a sin. So why the title? Loved into being. Well, frankly, I've discovered that I'm in need of it. I've discovered that I'm contributing to the tragedy. So I'm going to finish by telling you about my own discontent that I know started probably before the Mr. Rogers movie, but it solidified there. What I didn't tell you at the beginning of my talk was when Mr. Rogers says to his friend, "Will you do this exercise with me? Recall the people that loved you into being?" He said, "No, I can't do that." And he said no because he knew he was going to have to see something he didn't want to see. And his no was fully rooted in his humanity, in his fear. It was rooted there, and you could see it on his face in this movie. You could sense his disconnect, his discontent, his inability to move. But he has this little spark of divinity, you see, and sometimes that works in our lives even when we don't want it to. Because life had sent him his teacher, Mr. Rogers, you see. That scene really made me uncomfortable. Because I know about this discontent, because I was experiencing it. This is how it works in my life, maybe yours too. God whispers in my ear, I ignore him. Taps me on the shoulder, I ignore him. Pokes me in the chest, I tell him to go away. So his only choice is to hit me in the head. Sometimes that's what it takes, isn't it? Well, I'm here to tell you that every single day, for the last 10 days, God has hit me in the head with the daily word. And I'm sharing this with you because while I know that my healing rests on my shoulders, I am aware that some of it stems from here. And I also know that if I'm going to do this work, that I have to feel safe. And this is one of the safest places I know because I'm in a room full of people who have loved me into being over and over again. So let me explain. For months, we have been preparing for our new minister. And I have been hearing, prepare, prepare, prepare. And I got impatient. So I went to my fellow board members and our interim board, or our interim minister, Pat Bessie, and I said, I told them, what? We got to move on this. And they were lovely. And they told me to be patient. Wrong answer. So I prayed for understanding, and I took my feelings to an AA meeting, because that's where I go. And one of the readings in the 12-step meeting said this, honest. Sometimes if you're frustrated because the answer won't come, it's because you're not ready for the answer. Like, really? I didn't want to hear that. So then I prayed for understanding, and this time I heard a couple voices. And I recognized these voices, and they were saying things that they had said before. The first voice I had heard for the first time at the healing with Pat Bessie months ago, where someone in this congregation shared that they were feeling some distance from this place that they love. And that alarmed me a little bit, because I know that to be true. They give of themselves, their time, their talent, their treasure. I know they love this place. And my divine spark said I should do something about that, but my humanity said, not your responsibility. My humanity said, leave it alone. I didn't even go and say, is there something I can do to help? I didn't even share the fact that, you know what, I know how you feel, because I've felt that way before. The second voice I heard more than a month ago at a town hall meeting, where this person said, you know what, that healing was great, but I know I need more. And my gut response to that, my humanity said, no more healing, just let's get the paperwork done. But I did have the foresight enough to ask somebody here, like, hey, did you hear that? And they said, yeah. And I said, well, I wonder what they meant. And in their wisdom, they said, well, you're going to have to ask yourself. Wrong answer. I didn't want to do that. I was afraid to do that. That's when God started to hit me over the head with the daily word. So bear with me. Valentine's Day, the day of love. On Valentine's Day, daily word, I honor the heart connection I have with all life. The next day, Saturday, let go and let God. Sunday, grace. Really? Monday, leadership. I'm a board member here, for Christ's sake. Tuesday, an unwelcomed event or unkind word may have disturbed your equilibrium. Okay. That's what I picked up my phone and sent some texts to the voices. Can we talk? Wednesday, compassion. Compassion is found at the meeting point of my heart and the hurts of the world. I can silently affirm that I am you. They called me back, one of them, and I was really hoping that they'd say, no, it has nothing to do with you. But I already know that's not true. So we've set a date to talk. And then I opened the book on Thursday, and this is what it says. The truth will set you free. Friday, healing. Yesterday, breathe. I can do all of this with ease and grace. Today, forgiveness. I give up. I give up. Myrtle Fillmore wrote this. Forgiveness is the art of putting something else in the place of the thing forgiven. And it sounded an awful lot like freeing yourself was one thing. Claiming that freed self is another. I have gotten the message. It is no coincidence for me that my healing, my time, my search will align with Lent. That time of prepare. Preparing for a new minister for me will now be more than paperwork. I'm going to have to do a little something else. And I suspect that might be true for some of you. So here is my invitation. And I need to be very clear, my friends, that this is an invitation that comes from me as an individual. Not speaking as a board member, as a speaker, or someone I think that you might see as a leader in this community, just me, the man. If you decide to do what I've asked you to do this Lent, and you discover some of that divine discontent, and any of it lies at my feet, I'm going to ask you to tell me. Create that possibility for me to heal, so that we can sit down together and get rid of whatever it is that's getting in the way of us becoming closer, forming closer bonds. Because that's how we create community. All community is people connecting with one another. We happen to have common goals. We happen to have some things that we say we grow into, things that we say we are. One of them is compassion. So to do that, I'll need to let go of whatever has happened in my past, and I need to embrace my future. I need to claim my inheritance. So maybe that's how I need to prepare for this new minister, that creating a sacred space, letting go of my past and opening my heart up to something new. And I really don't know where this is going to lead me. All I know is that part of me needs to be loved into being. And I think maybe part of us needs to be loved into being. And last week I heard Mark Wildman say that out there someplace there's a person, a minister, who is waiting for us to love them into being, love them into belonging here. All I know is it's time for me to be freed. Which leaves only one question. Are you? Affirmation, please. So I'm going to leave you this to sit with this week. I am free to claim my highest good. Would you say that with me? I am free to claim my highest good. That is simply our truth. If you are brave enough to do this, this is a public service announcement or whatever. Okay. On Wednesday when you open the book, it's going to say, fast on doubt. The next day you're going to read, feast on faith. Now is the time that we're going to enter into meditation. So if you would just find that place within yourselves where you are comfortable, settle whatever you need to, close your eyes if you'd like to, focus on the candle, the Christ candle if you'd like to. Take that first deep breath together. As we enter into this time of sacred meditation together, just allow your body to relax. Take in that deep breath and breathe away any tension that you feel in your body. Take another deep breath and breathe out anything that might keep you from this moment. This moment. Allow yourself to know that your heart is safe. Allow your mind's eye to see and feel anything that you might need to experience this morning. And when you have found that safest place, allow them to come forth. Allow their names, their faces, their essence to come forth. All those who have loved you into being. And welcome with a thank you. Welcome them with a thank you. And gather all the love they bring. And if you feel any discontent, welcome that with namaste. I behold the Christ in you. Let yourself know that we are all loved into being through the combination of God's grace, compassion, and the spiritual strength to face adversity. In the silence, listen for your call to love. And as you take another deep breath and return to this time and place, let us be thankful for this time together. And remember that we are all free to claim our greatest good. Thank you.
Choose love. Love always present. It's what I'm made of. I choose love. We are a part of each other. We are one. One tie that binds us can't be undone. I Let love be present. It's what they're made of. I choose love. We are a part of each other. We are one. One loving family, sharing as one. I choose love. Restore our planet. It's growing because I choose love. Let love be present. It's what they're made of. I choose love. We are all part of each other. We are one. One choice unites us. Let this be the one. I choose love. You choose love. We choose love.
And now is the time when we bring forth our tithes and love offerings. So if you will hold those in your hands with me as we say together our love offering blessing. Divine love, as me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. You are my source.
In this moment, in this place, I remember who I am, letting fear and worry fall away from me. I open my eyes and see there is only love. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets us free. There is only love. Love that heals, love that sets you free. There is only love.
Hi, Michelle. It's our way to do this and rub our hands together to create all that energy. And if you were listening this morning to our shares during our principles, you know that we've got some amazing energy here. We are truly blessed, and so we just take some time to remember that this is just one more blessing. We are well taken care of here. I heard someone at the 10 o'clock group this morning say, you know what? Sometimes we worry about not having enough, but that is just not our truth. Amen. God is our source, and therefore we say thank you and amen as we go forward to create and live into who we say we are. Thank you. Amen. Time for our kids.
In the light of God, we are walking in the light of God. We are walking in the light walking, we are walking, we are walking in the light of God. We are walking, we are walking, we are walking in the light of God. 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 We are walking, we are walking, we are walking in the light of God. We are walking, we are walking, we are walking in the light of God.
Buenos dias.
Buenos dias.
Yeah, good afternoon. We broke some toothpicks today.
Oh,
We got some broken toothpicks up here.
Set themselves
We
free.
talked about strength, and we talked about how it's easy for most of us to break. Careful, they're pointy. Please, no poking. How it's easy to break one. It might be easy to break two, but as we bundle them together, we find that there's strength in numbers. And we talked about David and Goliath and how David was not alone when he fought Goliath. How David knew and recognized that he was an individualized expression of God. And David went to that quiet space inside, and he listened. And when the king gave David armor to wear, David said, "This isn't me. I don't need this armor. I can't use this armor." And because he took that armor off, he was able to use his sling. And he went in quietly, and he thought, the thoughts came to him to go to the river to gather 5 smooth stones. And because of the stones that he picked up, that also helped him to defeat Goliath. So at the end of the day, he wasn't alone. He was with God. And because he had all of that strength with him, he was able to defeat a giant who was really tall and really scary. And that's what we did today.
Cool. Thank you. Take time to bless our children. We bless our children wherever they are. We see them surrounded by love and light throughout the week. We have a thriving, expanded youth and family ministry. And our prayer for protection. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.